I'm Joe. I've been in manufacturing for over a decade, and I've overseen the production of millions of products all over the world, and this is Community Questions.
Lee JC000 asks, are recycled nylon or polyester inferior in quality?
So when it comes to recycled yarns, typically you see a lot of recycled polyester, which comes from PET bottles. We've used it for our clients here at Shift, and I've seen a lot of brands kind of use recycled yarns. In terms of its durability, at least anecdotally from my experience, I haven't seen any durability issues when it comes to recycled yarns. But the reason I would say you don't see more recycled yarns in products is that it costs more. So you'll see some brands, they'll actually blend virgin material with recycled polyester just so you kind of get that checkbox of being sustainable. But on the flip side as well, as much as consumers say they want recycled yarns and they want sustainable products, because it costs more to produce these recycled products, even if you raise the price $1 more for a recycled yarn product versus a virgin material product, consumers just won't spend the money on recycled products. And multiple brands I've seen have tried to launch recycled yarn products, and consumers just don't care for it as much as they say they do, and they just won't buy it. People just, at the end of the day, when it comes to parting with their money in their wallet, they just want new stuff, and that's the unfortunate reality. Unless your brand's entire ethos is about sustainability and recycled yarns, then you can probably gather a very niche community that's willing to spend more for it. But until we see the cost of recycled yarns kind of come down, I don't think it's gonna be something that you're gonna see commonplace in fashion, unfortunately.
Trust Archive asks, what percentage of deviation is acceptable in color?
So I think you're probably talking about fabric color itself. So to kind of bring this back a little bit for those who don't know the process. So when you are creating a fashion product and you're making fabric for it, one of the very first things you're gonna do is you're gonna decide the color. So for example, this black, you're gonna decide which Pantone black you wanna choose, or Color O black, because there's dozens of different types of black. You're going to choose that black, and then you're gonna do what's called a lab dip. So what does that mean? It means you're going to take the Pantone number that you've chosen, and you're going to dye the fabric into that Pantone number. And this is important because different fabrics, different compositions, different types of knits, different types of wovens, they all pick up color differently. So you need to actually see what is that representation of the color you've chosen in that fabric looks like in real life. And you'll typically get 3 different lab dips, and you kind of choose between them, or you kind of go through that process again if it's not tight enough. If you're using a color spectrometer, when it comes to natural fibers, I typically would like a delta E of under 2% or delta E under 2. If you're doing synthetics, a delta E of 1. But if you don't have a spectrometer, your next best thing is going to be a light box, and you're just going to have to use your eyes, get multiple people, control the lighting conditions. So turn off the house lights if you have a light box, only use the D65 bulbs, and then look for what's the closest match for that Pantone to your specific fabric. And if you're gonna do, let's say, matching sets, and you're gonna do multiple fabrics, match your main body fabric first, so your main line fabric to that black, and then match the rest of the colors to this one. Because what happens is, if you try to match this Pantone for this fabric and then match this Pantone for this fabric, sometimes this might be too cool, and then this one might be too warm, and then you end up with things that are all over the place. So match your master fabric first and then match the rest of those to that. Just even visually would work.
2026 in the 6th asks, you said the brand isn't asking how suppliers are making it cheaper. Who on behalf of the brand is making these requests without caring about how?
So I think when it comes to that, it really depends on the brand itself and the scale of the brand. I think when you look at very large companies like Abercrombie and Fitch that are publicly traded, ultimately it's the CEO's job to provide shareholder value, and maximizing your shareholder value is going to be maximizing that stock price. So ultimately at that scale, the lowering of quality and maximizing profits is going to come from the CEO and their fiduciary duty to shareholders. When it comes to a lot of medium and smaller size companies that are privately owned, It can just be from either the in-house accounting, exterior accounting, sometimes from the brand owner. You know, when you're growing a business, a lot of brands, they just buy all these things over time that aren't kind of income generating assets. They buy fun toys here, fun toys there. Their overhead costs get very bloated. They hire their friends. There's a lot of multitude things that can happen in kind of privately owned fashion labels that don't contribute to revenue growth, that ultimately eat away at the profits, that ultimately get to the point where these brands get into a financial pinch that they need to lower the product quality to be able to kind of survive. I don't think at the end of the day a lot of brands intentionally want to put out shitty products. They do it out of the necessity of needing that margin to continue on business. But I would say when it comes to fashion brands, you know, if you own a fashion brand, take that time to look at your books and to optimize your operations, because you'd be surprised on how much bloat a lot of brands have that you can really clean out, especially now in today's economy. Clean all that out, make your operations significantly more efficient so that you can still deliver the product quality that your current customers are expecting of your brand, so that you can ensure the sustainability of your brand as well.
Swaggy J32065 asks, I want to start a fashion brand, but how do I figure out what products to make?
You know what? I think this happens a lot, especially now in like kind of like the hustle economy and the grinding economy. Everyone wants to start a small business. Everyone wants to start a fashion brand. But you really have to look at like, what is the intent behind it? I think this goes for any business that you're creating. Don't just create a fashion brand because you see everyone else doing it, because the world has enough fashion brands. What you need to do is create something that you're passionate behind. If your passion is fashion, create products for a community that you know and you can resonate with. You know, we had a call with a client that this guy was a lifetime like on the road salesperson and traveled all the time. And this person wanted to launch a fashion brand that was women's leggings. Like the disconnection there is so large, and the ability to understand the community that you're creating products for is so distant that it's just gonna be significantly harder to create products for that community. Whereas like this guy, you've been traveling for 40 plus years, you are always on the road. If you want to create something fashion, create something for people who are salespeople that are on the road, that travel a lot, because you speak the language, you understand the community, and you can create products that solve problems ultimately for that community. Because when it comes to fashion, you have to be passionate about it. You have to be able to stick it out through the really hard times, because fashion is, you know, the second largest industry in the world. It is not easy. You are gonna have lots of ups, you're gonna have lots of downs. So finding a community that you know you're gonna be supported in this growth is also so important at the end of the day. So to summarize, create products for a community that you know, you understand, and you ultimately can be happy being a part of for a really long time.
Jen_fitgirl asks, why do some brands have inconsistent sizing and fits?
Okay, so when it comes to fits inside brands, there's gonna be a multitude of reasons. So reason one is the brand actually doesn't design any of their stuff, and they just buy from buying houses and kind of just purchase catalogs. That's gonna be one of the reasons, and you'll be surprised how many brands do this. Number two could be that there's different teams running different projects and they're using different fit models for each of the teams. So that's the second reason. Number three is that over time they've developed products and designers have come and gone, and some kind of legacy products have a very specific fit and they haven't changed that. And then new designers have come into the brand and then they've created new fits, and now they've kind of branched off in terms of their fitting and sizing. So that could be the third reason. Fourth reason, and you can see this in a lot of smaller brands where the owners themselves are the fit models and their body weight is fluctuating throughout the years and their body has changed throughout the years. So you're getting a lot of inconsistencies there. So a fifth reason would be that designers for the brand might be very strong in one particular fabric type and not in others. You know, you might get designers that are really good at knits that don't know wovens, and vice versa. And they don't understand that the fabrics are going to drape differently, they're going to fit differently, they're going to perform differently on the body itself. So you can't be using one static block, because even though things might be dimensionally similar, they're going to fit and wear differently on the body. And I would say the sixth reason is that a lot of brands don't, especially for tight clothing, a lot of brands don't understand compression. And compression is what really ultimately dictates how a garment fits. If it feels too tight at specific parts of the body, that means it's too high in compression. Let's say a brand has high compression fabric, they need to adjust their design to accommodate that high compression fabric so the end user ultimately feels comfortable. Because when people are saying that garments fit differently, I'm gonna say 90% of the time, no one's taking out a tape measure. No one's measuring these garments. It just feels different on their body. And that's what brands need to account for. If you guys want to see more behind the scenes secrets on the fashion industry and learn more about how to create products and brands, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out these videos.